My guest today is Kenny Dyal, a content creator, podcast host, and course director. Welcome, Kenny.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Brian. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, tell me a little bit about what you do in the diving industry.
Well, my weekly part-time job, and this is just kind of what I do on the side. I've been there for 20 years. I work for Disney's dive team.
Cool.
I just do that for fun. Take guests in the water. There's a program called DiveQuest. You guys can do that this week. You were here in Orlando. You can go diving in the aquarium at the Seas at Epcot.
Cool.
Any open water certified diver can go do that. And we are the ones that take them into the water and hopefully keep them safe.
Right on.
And give them a good time.
What kind of experience might the guests expect with doing that?
They're going to be right in the water with all the animals, sharks, rays, turtles, lots of fish. But I will tell you what everyone loves. Mm-hmm. For one, you don't have all the stressors. It's indoor. It's huge. Mm-hmm. But they can play with people in the windows. So you can go high five. You see a little girl dressed as a Disney princess, and you can go blow her a bubble kiss, and just seeing that, or they see their own families in the water, or the restaurant, or wherever, and that is a real takeaway. So I think that's why most people go there. Plus, if they're already at Disney, they're like, I can dive here. So, but anyways, that's what I do on the side. But my main full-time job is a podcast host and content creator.
Definitely want to get into the content creation. I'm excited to talk to you about that. But first, I also understand you are a former dive shop owner. Can you talk about that a little bit?
That's a huge part. I don't think I could do what I do but for having done that. Mm-hmm. And I know you and I had talked earlier on some other show about, how to become a content creator and get there. And I think I wouldn't ever want to tell anyone not to just jump right in and do it. But I think one thing that helps me that I lean on is having that foundation. I know what customers come in and ask, what makes them want to go diving, what they complain about, what their fears are, what the objections were to getting certified, or the struggles of, I started out actually teaching independently and privately across from a little marina. Had a little classroom on my house right up front. It was very tropical vibe, even though it was in Northeast Florida, St. Augustine. It grew so fast that I was like, man, I gotta open a shop. Boxes are showing up at my house, neighbors are getting, So I was like, and it's busting at the seams. Started teaching at college, so I was like, all right, since I've never done anything in retail before, why not do that? Since I had absolutely no idea what I was doing at the time, but I did it. I opened up a dive shop, scrounged up some loans and begged, borrowed, and stealed. I did not, I'm not a trust fund baby or anything like that. I didn't find a briefcase full of unmarked bills. So, I just kind of did it, and it grew like wildfire. That was in 2012. By 2016, I was getting permits to build a pool. I was thinking about another. I'm like, I'm just multiplying the same thing that I'm doing. I'm ready to do something else.
Okay.
And that is where it took a few years to really I sold it. I sold it while it was doing well. Mm-hmm. I used the old Seinfeld thing, where go out while you're on top. The shop was doing very well. It was very successful. And I had people there that wanted to buy it. So I'm like, let's do that. I want to do something else.
Great.
I like the creative side of things. And I like the social element. So it slowly but surely led... Winding the clocks back, one of the successes of the dive shop was just having stellar staff, creating an experience more than having more products, better prices. Just when they came in, it felt like an escape, I think. Kind of like this has a vibe. Set a vibe. When you come into the shop, you're somewhere else.
Okay.
Good staff, good feel, good music, good lighting, and I think all that stuff adds up. Mm-hmm. I steal from Disney, you always say, what's the value in having that custom light post or that weird emblem on a trash can? We could cut that, no big deal. You still have the rides and all, but you start cutting away, but you start adding all that stuff, next thing you know, it just has a different feel. Mm-hmm. You've been transported, and I think that's kind of, the core of why we all go scuba diving. We have a million different reasons why, but it's that escape. Whether it's just for fun or adventure or photography or whatever you're doing it for, it's an escape in one form or another. I think.
I love it.
And so we used social media to get really big really quick, and so that kind of took that and ran with it. And that's what sort of led to the content in the podcast today. So having done that, the work at the shop gave me that foundation, that institutional knowledge, and a bit of that psychology of the diver, the professional, and everything in between. So yeah, that's what got me here.
Love it. Well, and I'm glad you covered, why the shop was successful, because as you were talking about the shop and how it grew so quickly, I was thinking, okay, well, what's the secret to that? Viewers will want to know. So it sounds like creating that experience is the answer there. Be somewhere else, be transported.
Yeah, feel like something else, and remember that. And remember, you're not a commodity. This is not Publix or Kroger or whatever's around. I always, when I had new staff, I said, no matter what, everybody walking through that door, think of them as like your cousins. If you say it's like your immediate family, all right, that might be overkill. But everybody's like your cousin when they come in. You're like, oh my gosh, how you doing? What are you here? What brings you here?
Yeah.
Don't be still unpacking a box behind the thing. Don't be, if you're still on the phone, be like, huh. Just be. Sometimes you got to get artful if you're only one there. Just be like, hey, I just had somebody walking in. Is there any way I could call you right back? Or find a break, or just, hey, could you 1 second? Hey guys, I'm on the phone. Make yourself comfortable. Yep. We had bottled water, cream soda, diet soda, depending on the time of day and who was in there. Beer. But we would give that to them. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for that. But we would offer them a drink, and then, sometimes they walk around, they leave with it. But we just kind of wanted to make them comfortable. Like, hey, you're out of that 9 to 5. You're out of the traffic jam. You're here now, and even if you don't buy anything. And so that was the key, and it all plays. You got to have the right people. Even the back of shop. That was one real big mistake. I think a huge mistake I see is people letting their back of house look like back of house. I understand there's a certain element to it, right? There's a certain degree of it, but it looks like a bait shop. And I stole that from my old boss. That was really funny. He's the one that said that. But it's got that bait shop vibe in the back. And I said, no, show quality front to back. Okay. Where we service gear, it needs to look like NASA fixes things here. And because, people want to feel good about it.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it worked.
Right, because you're selling safety as well as an experience.
It is. We're somewhere else now. We're not the mechanic shop downtown. Right. We're not the bait shop. And you get to, as a dive shop owner, have that creativity of, how you do that is a little different, and that's okay. But just keep that in mind. We're not a commodity. People are here to escape their 9 to 5. People are here to get out of the stress.
Right on. So is that same philosophy then, that when you create content for the internet, do you think about it in those same terms as far as creating an experience or a vibe or welcoming people in? How does that relate?
Man, it is different because it's not a retail store. People aren't entering. But one thing I think is important is for to always be willing to be wrong. But I think that's where you bring in other people and get a lot of different ideas and opinions and everything. I think from what people have been approaching me out, even on the floor today, about is they all really like my videos, and they say that they feel like it's a little bit of a different approach. And I really like to also balance everything we're talking about. As soon as we start going tank, no cylinder, how long you can stay down, know your NDLs, when you start getting into all that stuff, and that's fine for us, when you're kind of in a more professional setting, but the big problem with diving is it's not really growing that much. And so maybe let's not use terminology that already confuses people and puts them off before they've even set in the door. Like, I don't understand that, and those words they use, I really don't understand that. That looks cool, but whew,
not for me.
And we still have a big problem with that. Was it 6 million active scuba divers in the world or something like that? A few years ago, at least. That's a 2022 stat, I think.
Okay. I did hear it thrown around today, so someone's still using it.
Yeah, that was somewhere, but it's around that.
Yeah.
And
that's worldwide.
Yeah. The U.S., it was 2.5 or 3.5, somewhere in that range. Okay. Again, a few years ago, but I think it was DEMA.org has those stats.
Cool.
And they would probably have updated ones. But it's so something, and our population has grown. Someone was telling me, you're not seeing many more people on the dive boats than you did back in the late 90s down in South Florida And I said, okay. Now, I don't know the stats on that, but that seems to be the consensus, and we're just not seeing big growth. And I think we just got to be careful not to be arguing the comments, putting people off. Okay, maybe they said tank instead of cylinder. Things like that just aren't worth. I don't know why we have to do that, but I like to balance everything. My real kind of, I guess my secret sauce is always putting this through the prism of someone that is just scrolling through, that does not dive, that has no clue what we're talking about. And I try, and how do we say this in a way that they both understand it? It's hard.
Sure.
You can't always be perfect. Sometimes a caption's all you can do. But I try and always do that. My friends will go, "Why did you say that? That's not all." And I said, "I understand that, but if a video has 12 million views, we know that more than scuba divers have seen it."
Sure.
So at least half of them aren't. So I think balancing that is something that, whether you're a dive shop owner or content creator, you don't want to scare people off.
Right.
Bring them in gradually to understanding terminology and what things mean.
Great. So less jargon, less gatekeeping, more welcoming.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that. So in your channels, what are some of the things you do to appeal to both the diver and the non-diver? Like you're talking about the difficulty of walking that line, and I agree. But are there specific things you think about or just sometimes do you think more about, well, this one's for the divers or this one's for the non-divers even? Yeah,
occasionally you're gonna have that. You just kind of gotta. Okay, I just did one that was really technical. Let's jump back over to how to choose a good open water instructor. Because and again, you can bring those people in. How do you choose a good instructor? We always say, in the beginning, it's the instructor. Then you start looking at the agencies or where you're going or what equipment lines or, all that stuff comes into play eventually. But in the beginning, if it does not take in that open water class, odds are they will never dive again.
Right.
Or if it's a ho-hum experience, they'll go, most people don't.
Right. We
all know those stats. So that is such a critical, little vortex. It's just such a
inflection point, maybe.
Yeah. If you don't nail that's it. That's kind of very rarely will somebody go back. I had a bad experience, but I'll try it again.
Sure.
They won't do it again.
Sure.
Yes, there are outliers. We've had people 10 years ago. I tried it. They come back, thankfully. But for the most part, that's your one shot, and that's going to determine and if they don't take and you don't have a few dives for them to do after, and they didn't really have a good time, they're not going to do it.
Okay. So more about content creation. What are some of the things you've learned in the time you've been doing that, and what are some of the things that people most respond to that you do?
You got to walk the fine line of doing things that are going to trigger a response. Not always bad or good, but definitely. You have your go-tos like mask on the forehead, right? Is that a sign of distress, or should you always have a snorkel, or who's the best agency? All those things that are immediately going to get the whole room stirred up with opinions.
Yeah,
and it's low-hanging fruit, right? But then you can start going, okay, the breakdown between a high pressure and a low pressure cylinder, and now now you might be losing some people, but there's a lot of confusion in that. And then, aluminum or steel, and then how to choose the right gear and not be, biased toward any certain gear line or anything. Obviously you can say this one might be better than that one, but this other line might be here, might be there. So it's really, you're constantly walking a fine line. It's a moving target. You have to keep adapting. And sometimes, just like with any teaching or anything to beat burnout, change it up a little bit. Every now and then somebody will be like, could you imagine if a spider came out of your regulator? And I'm like, hold that thought. And we'll sometimes do funny stuff like that, but then that will get a couple thousand new followers that might not have ever looked at anything scuba diving. Now, there's an argument that might have scared some people out of it, but I don't think that's what's happening.
No.
Now they're on the scuba page.
Right.
So, I've actually been accused of that one.
Scaring them away?
Scaring them away with that
Yeah,
spider.
yeah. Well, I liked hearing you talk about that content expertise, that you seemed like you developed that first and then started thinking about how to promote it and make it interesting and grow an audience. So what else do you do besides be an expert in your space to grow the audience and to engage with the audience?
Okay, I have one really, really hard rule.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, I would urge any new content creator to adopt this rule. And I will tell you, it's hard to keep up. But do not badmouth any other people in the industry, even if they deserve it, and there are some. But do not badmouth them. I've been badmouthed. People now use my image and say, this is what this guy said, this is what this guy, that's lazy. It's easy to pick apart somebody and they use it for recognition on their page. I've had this happen with some people you probably are familiar with. And so my course gut reaction is to go on and refute that, and I've got good people around me said, ignore them. Keep doing what you're doing. You're not talking about their page. I don't really look at or break down other people's pages. I could find fault with tons of stuff. We all could. You see somebody, I've seen people with a snorkel on the wrong side of their mask in their video. He's like, really? But don't say anything. I've had friends like, look at this. I said, just let them, people, you never know, So I have a hard line of not picking apart or breaking down, or you will never see me breaking down or talking bad about or using other people to break apart or anything like that. Like, it's very easy to armchair quarterback somebody else. That's very easy. It's very lazy. But it really goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It puts people off. And it's hard. I get tested sometimes. I get tested a lot. But you just have to keep going and remember it got you this far. You got good people. I get nothing but positivity in real life. People coming up to me, it's been overwhelming. It's been amazing walking around out here and hearing the things. There are people here at DEMA because of our videos, and so that's people that got certified, people that opened a dive shop. Actually, a guy came up to me just a couple hours ago. So that feels good. That lets you know it's doing something. Mm-hmm. So that's exciting. So I think it's really important to not be – I don't even like bad-mouthing other equipment or gear. We've seen a few things. I don't know, that little – pump bottle or whatever, that mask with the snorkel on. There's a few things out there, okay, but again, I really just don't enjoy doing that stuff. I like seeing the light come on for people.
Just keep it positive.
Keep turning on lights. Don't. I know it's fun to break them, but keep turning on lights. Sure, we have funny stuff, controversial stuff, and everything, but at the end of the day, I try and make sure this airs positive. Mm-hmm. And that would be the one thing, if you forget everything else, that I would like to tell every content creator out there. And I think that's the long haul approach. As frustrating as it can be sometimes. Yep. You want to know who they are? No, I'm just kidding.
So we've talked a little bit about your experience as a dive professional, as a content creator. How about before that? How did you get into diving? Tell us a little bit about your journey, your path to diving and to being a dive professional.
You're making me feel old, man. Certified in 1998, just wanted to do it, thought it was cool. Mm-hmm. Friend in the neighborhood. Again, very social sport. Very few times people just randomly do it. They do, definitely, but a lot of times it's a friend or a brother. It's such a word-of-mouthy thing, and there is a social element to it that's so strong. And I've said it 1,000 times, you probably heard it. It is a social activity in almost every capacity, even if you're like a solo diver. I mean, the boat, the dive shop, the classes to become, all those things, there's these social elements, but it's also somehow perfect for introverts. Mm-hmm. It's the weirdest thing.
Very quiet down there.
Yeah. Even on the boat, I mean, you can be the quieter, but I've seen quiet people on the boat that like hearing the banter and like talking about gear, and now you've got this commonality, and you'll see them kind of come out of their shells on each dive trip. I know specific individuals that have done this, and now dive trips are social on.
Right.
But there's people that are so happy being just introverted, and it still works. Mm-hmm. Like people that are not friends, that would never interact anywhere else, will get together to go on that trip. And then they go back to their lives, but then they meet up, and I know them. They'll meet up once, twice, 3 times a year, and they'll go be dive buddies.
Great.
It's cool.
Yeah, and they can geek out about
Yeah.
equipment. They can geek out about marine wildlife and things like that.
Yeah, so that's how it started. I just wanted to do it like everybody else.
Yep.
And I used to do graphic design, 3D models, and a little bit of video editing. So that helps. One more piece of advice for any content creator out there is I know it's tempting to use CapCut and whatever, and I know Instagram wants you to use their stuff right now. Have a real editor. I use Adobe Premiere. You can use DaVinci, whatever works for you. A real editor, because then you can go back and kind of like TV would syndicate. Like I will put out viral stuff that I did 2 years ago, but maybe overlay some new footage where we talk about, is shipwreck, is it always an overhead environment, something like that. And now I got this cool new shot that we just did a week ago, and now all I have to do is open it up. And so that it's one step backwards to learn it, 10 steps forward once you do grasp it. So putting everything on a real editor is hard at first. It is very hard at first, but that in the long haul will really help you if you're doing it yourself.
Excellent.
Yeah, mechanical advice there. That's
good.
that has helped me.
Great.
I wish I'd done it in the beginning. So we got started, and eventually I got the job at Disney and. I had to get my dive master to work there. I wanted to work there, so I got my dive master. Maybe that was the thing. I was never, like, I dove for fun here and there. Like every other person, the demostat, 2 to 4 or 6 dives a year, whatever it was. But then someone said, hey, there's a position opening up. So I was like, what do I got to do to get my dive master? It's like, oh, you're going to be busy. So I had to go up to, go through all the stuff. And luckily we lived here in Central Florida near Disney World. And so it wasn't too hard to get the boats and all that stuff. And worked my way and got it, and just learned so much there. And one of the reasons I'm still there to this day is because every single night we do 2 groups. Well, I think it's 5 days a week, 2 groups. That can change, and there are people from all over the world. You got 2 big bricks on their hand. Can I go inside the fake coral heads? No, this is not a penetration dive. And then I haven't dove in 20 years. You got an open water certification. We take you.
Okay.
So you get the full spread, and so we're helping people. We're coaching them down. We're chasing people, rocking it up, dropping down. It keeps, and you hear what they're saying, like, "Oh, I got certified," and I'm hearing this every night for years and years and years, and you start picking up these baselines, and you see where things are missed, and it keeps your sword sharpened, because that's the problem we all run into is we end up at desks, right, and then eventually you lose touch. And now you're saying things that were true 5, 6, 8 years ago. And so I don't ever want to lose touch. And so that's one way I guess, stay fit in the diving world. And, of course, we dive for our projects and our content and social and all that outside of there, but that might be every couple weekends. That's really not enough.
Yeah.
But you're not hearing what everyone else is saying.
Well, okay, so we're Dan, so we want to ask you about safety and how you think about safety. And I'm interested in your personal diving, in your diving for content creation, and your diving through your work. How is it different? What are some ways that you think about safety, conceptualize safety in one or more of those different settings?
Obviously, I think it's one thing to follow the standards, right? We have to follow the standards. Whatever your agency sets, follow those standards. But I think it's important to find a balance. I think you can overload yourself if you're not careful. You've seen it with, you can put spare airs in this and long hoses and all that stuff. I've seen people wear so much safety stuff that, like, you look like a walking accident waiting to happen. Like, all those. Now, there are certain scenarios that each of those things need. I think it's really important to balance what your intent is with each dive and what the environment calls for. But the biggest thing that dictates, kind of what different things I look for, because the 20 years taking guests down, you can't not see little things wrong all the time. You're constantly watching them. You can never turn that off. Even when I'm with my crew that are all instructors, you can't turn it off. You see things that are crooked, and you just see it. So it's important to gauge what are we doing here? Who's here? What's their mood? we don't want to come in here looking big, and and I know we're kind of always on a mission and intimidate people. We don't want to make people feel like, they better be able to hang with us. So it's really important for me to know who we're diving with and what their comfort zones are. Not just what they tell you, but we've learned a long time ago to just, it's in the rescue books. Like, you start seeing body language and quietness or loudness and fiddling with gear. And I like to get that assessment by not even talking about diving. So, like, we'll talk about something else while we're messing with our gear. And I've got one eye. Hopefully no one goes on a dive with us after hearing this, but I'm always kind of watching them to get a read on how much I need to watch them. And that is the best way, because if you start going, okay, set up your gear. If I give you a shirt to turn inside out and everything, and we're all watching with cameras, that'll get complicated.
Right.
So it's really important, I think, to take pressure off of people. They will perform better. But going back to reading the room with who we're diving with and marrying that to the environment, I can't get that out of my DNA watching people. And so I think it's too hardwired. But I do know how to pretend like I'm not watching.
Perfect. Well, Kenny, tell us where to find your content, please.
If I'm not already a virus in your phone, it's like I've seen your videos, but I don't know where. Really, any social media channel, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts, Sweetwater Scuba, or just my name, Kenny Dyal. It's a scuba diving podcast. Most of the time, you can find either the little tank popsicle or the face with a red hat. The happiest accident in marketing ever. That was not intentional. It was actually cold.
Well, tell us that story.
Oh, that story. But yeah, that's how you can find all that. It's Spotify, everything. But the red hat is a funny one. It was actually cold. I had not even thought about a hat when I started. I was just doing it. And I've always been a fan of Wes Anderson, Steve Zissou movies.
Sure.
And of course, Jacques Cousteau.
Yep.
But I actually had like that movie poster in my shop back when we opened it, The Life Aquatic, and with the red hat and everything. And it never really occurred to me to wear that until, but it was actually cold out. I had done a couple other colors because it was cold, so I could wear the T-shirt. I was just trying to match. I don't know. I was trying to figure it out.
Sure.
And I was trying to look more divey than just a guy talking. And so one day I finally got some of the blue shirts. There's that logo. But the blue shirts, and then I had the red hat, and then someone goes, "That looks like the Steve Zissou guy." And I was like, "Oh, that's it."
Yeah, let's do that.
And then we made the stickers in the last minute. My wife had it on her cup, and it was the Steve Zissou. It was just a funny one she'd found somewhere, and it was on this like Yeti cup. And I was like, "What if we put the glasses on and just kind of modified that a little bit?" Did it in like an hour. Next day, some cards. It was the DEMA of 2022. Like next day, some Sticker Mule stickers, and put the QR code for our contact on there. And it was such a hit. And I was like, well, that's it. We started putting it on the podcast and everything, but it was all an accident.
Accidental branding success.
Yeah, and everybody was like, oh, I can find you anywhere. And it's just boom. Like, where's Waldo? But whatever.
Well, great. Well, Kenny, thanks so much for talking with us today.
Yeah, Brian, thanks for having me on, man.
You bet.